let's throw in regen of 60 for the time being, which is insane, but may be what we need to see to get a CR 18 here. Who knows? The Elder Hydra from D&D Beyond, I believe this is someone's custom homebrew that they put in, is a huge monstrosity, and let's see here, should be a CR 18. Well, we've got 18 natural AC, followed by 18 D12 hit dice, and then we have 22 strength, 10 dex, 22 constitution, 16 intellect, 15 wisdom, and 14 charisma. Next, we do have a big section in the monster skills area, and we'll start off with saving throws. We see that we have 2 saving throws, and we don't have to modify anything because the initial saving throws is 0 to 2. So upwards of 2, there's no bonuses. So we'll move down to damage resistances, and we'll see that we got the standard array for non-magical attacks. We also have damage immunities of 1 condition of acid, so we can skip over the immunities and throw in resistances. Considering this is a CR 18, I don't believe we're going to get any kind of a benefit here. Sure enough, we don't. So as we see here, we have damage resistances and immunities. To see what kind of bonuses we get, this is only 1 times the bonus. So we also have, let's see here, monster traits. We have amphibious, no effect on the CR, so we'll skip that. Multiple heads. The Hydra has 9 heads. While it has more than 1 head, the Hydra has advantages on conditions. That doesn't matter. Whenever the Hydra takes 50 or more damage on a single turn or attack, one of its heads dies. If all the heads die, the Hydra dies. And then at the end of its turn, it grows 2 heads for each of its heads that died since its last turn, unless it has taken fire damage since the last turn. The Hydra regains 30 hit points for each head regrown in this way. So that would be a total of 60 hit points every time a head dies off. Let's throw in regen of 60 for the time being, which is insane, but may be what we need to see to get a CR 18 here. Who knows? After that, we also have reactive heads. For each Hydra head beyond 1, it gets an extra reaction that can be used only for opportunity attacks. So since we're not sure if we ever get opportunity attacks, we don't count those in. Next, we have wakeful. Doesn't matter. It's just at least 1 head's awake. And then we have colorful heads. When new heads are made, roll a d12 for each new head. On a roll of 1 to 6 is a basic head. On a roll of 7, you get red. 8, you get blue. 9, you get green, and they typed out 9 for some reason. 10, you get a white head. 11, you get a black head. And 12, you get a gold head. So this is where this stuff is going to be important. Right off the bat, I believe the Elder Hydra doesn't have any colorful heads. So now that we've got all that out of the way, let's take a look at the actions and reactions that our Hydra can do. So right off the bat, we have a multi-attack. The Hydra makes as many bite attacks or special colored actions as it has heads. So we're looking upwards of starting with a 9. And speaking of 9, the Elder Hydra has a +9 for its attack bonus. So we'll go ahead and pop that in there. And then next we have, let's see here, it's regular bite, which 11 piercing damage. So we'll go ahead and throw that in of 1d6 plus strength, and that's 11.5, so that works out perfectly fine. If a black head makes this attack and deals damage, then add 2d6 necrotic damage. If a red head makes the attack, deal 1d6 fire, and if a green head makes the attack, deal 1d6 poison. Another thing you can do is, let's see here, Gold's Radiance. If you get a gold head, the gold head illuminates a target with a brilliant light, granting all strikes against this target from the Hydra advantage until the Hydra's next turn. The gold head always acts first. Then it's basically the same as Fairy Fire. And then you would get advantage on all those attacks for 1 round. Well, let's move on from Gold's Radiance and see what we got for White's Grace. And the white head heals the Hydra for 1d12 plus 2 for each of its current heads. Wow, okay. All right, moving on to Blue's Storm. Blue's head can spew a storm of compressed water at a target who must succeed a strength save or take 2d6 bludgeoning damage, half as much on a save, and be knocked prone. And then next we have Black's Shadow. The black head creates a d4 Shadow Serpent, which rolls initiative and enters the next round. That, again, as I always state, is only going to increase the difficulty of the encounter. So we don't have to worry about the Shadow Serpents from Black Shadow. So that's probably why it's getting an extra d6 of damage here, as opposed to some of the others. So we've got those out of the way. Let's take a look at the reactions and see what we have. Well, we've got Red's Fury whenever the Hydra takes damage, and the Hydra currently has a red head that wasn't specifically targeted for the attack, then it makes a bite attack at a creature within range. And then Green's Crust. Whenever a specific head is targeted for an attack, the green head can intervene and put a thick shell around itself. The new target becomes green head, and it gains a +6 to its AC for this attack. Alright, so we can't guarantee any of these heads. None of them. We start with 9 basic heads. So right off, let's add those in and see what we get for our multi-attack. So we're going to do 11.5 times 9 for a total of 103.5 points of damage. We do have some legendary actions, so let's take a look at that. The Elder Hydra gets 3 actions, which is fine. One of them is going to be Bite, so the single head takes the Bite action. So that is easy enough, and we can then take the Bite and multiply that by 3, since we could do that 3 times. Then we have Blue's Calm. If there is a blue head and the Hydra takes fire damage, that would have rendered it unable to regenerate and heal 50 hit points. So we're looking at healing 50 effective hit points if we use that one, if we have a blue out, but we can't guarantee a blue. So I'm not even going to bother writing anything in for the legendary actions right now. For number 3, we have Forced Regeneration. If the Hydra has not taken fire damage this round and has at least 1 head missing, from its natural 9, spawn 1d4 heads. Whoa. Okay. So there's going to be no damage from that alone. But that can make things even nastier. It's going to get the extra 2 regardless, and then on top of that, the Forced Regeneration is going to add in, on average, 2 more heads, but we could see upwards of 1 to 4 more heads healing even more damage. So right off, we're going to see that, let's just go with the base Elder Hydra right now and see what we get. Every round of combat, we can simply take the multi-attack plus the legendary actions, all just massive amounts of biting without anything else until, one of the heads dies, and multiply that by 3. So right off the bat, without even using any of the heads, this is supposed to be a CR 18, as we saw here in the expected CR and in the stat blocks. Base, without any extra colored heads, we're looking at a CR 21. It's a tank, but it's also doing a lot of damage. This is nasty. This is really nasty. So what would we want to do to be able to get this down to an 18? Probably the easiest thing would be, all right, let's not have 9 heads. Let's say 7. Let's try 7 instead. All right, so we'll go over here to the multi-attack, switch that to 7 heads. Nope, we've got a CR 20. All right, what does a Hydra normally have? 5 heads? Let's go with 5 instead. All right, now we have a CR 18 Elder Hydra. And then we can start looking at some of the extras here and adjust as needed. But that alone is going to give us the CR 18 we need. So we would go from the 9 heads all the way down to 5, which a Hydra typically has, and then we would have all the extra stuff. So let's go back to our 9 heads and see what happens if we happen to spawn some of these other heads. Simply enough, we could go ahead and say, all right, if we've got a black head that spawns, we're going to get an extra 2d6 necrotic damage. Every round of combat, we would see an extra 7 points of necrotic damage. That's not a whole heck of a lot, but it does bring up the OCR just a little bit. If we get a black head to show up, one of the black Elder Hydra's heads, then we're seeing, we're getting 1 OCR up in damage. If we spawn, let's see here, a white head. Let's say we spawn a white head. Then we're healing an additional 1d12 plus 2 for each of its current heads. So we're at 9 heads. 1 gets lopped off. Next round, another head grows in its place. So we're now from 9 to 10 heads. Okay, so we would want to do, let's see here, what we want to do. All right, so we would leave the attacks at 9, and then the white would be healing for 10 total dice. Oh, man. Okay. So we would say 10 times 6.5 plus 20. So we're looking at an extra 85 hit points on 1 round. And then every round that the white head stays out, it's adding in 85 hit points every round of combat. So we're looking at another step up in DCR here. So it seems as though for every Yeah, it seems like every head is adding on at least one OCR or one DCR, depending on what they're doing. At base, the Elder Hydra is a CR21, which is 3 steps higher than what was expected. Everything else is just going to compound and make this worse for the players. And just one more thing, let's see here. Because we have 9 heads, let's see what our crit range is going to change from. Fix that. So this is really what we're looking at here, because it's also including that. So we should say DPR of this plus the legendary actions, which we're going to have 12 attacks to hit. We're looking at 13. So then it would be, okay, that plus 13, because effectively, if we don't crit, we're adding in 13 DPR per attack until we finally do crit, and we should be critting 45% of the time, technically. The Elder Hydra with 9 attacks and 3 legendary attacks goes even higher to a CR23. So this is the few times where I suggest, yeah, let's add in the critical damage here because of how many times we're attacking. So to make this even worse, the Elder Hydra may be a CR23 and not an 18 like we initially thought from the stat blocks. Final thoughts, Elder Hydra, it's an underrated monster, obviously, as we see here because of the CR21. And then after that, every specially colored head is going to be gaining, you know, an OCR or a DCR respectively. So if the players have bad luck and it's a 50-50 shot really to get a multicolored head or not, the Hydra is going to get stronger.